have the life story simultaneously. Everybody is involved with it, whatever that is. We're all in it. So you take one step back. So you create some space between the story in your life, whatever it is, it's good, bad, dramatic, hectic, and you pull back. So what happens in between, space appears. There is space between you and the story that is going on in your life. And then in that pulling back, all of a sudden you touch a field, a unified field. You touch a space. You come into this other part. You touch this other greater reality, which is always here. And you disconnect from your story for a few moments of my life, me, because me, I am always the center of myself. I'm in the center of universe. I'm the only one who's very important because things happen to me. So there's always this me thing happening at all times. It's all about me. I get hurt, I'm happy, I want to do this, I want to do that, I'm impatient, I'm the one who no one pays attention to, I am the one that nobody understands. So all these stories, all these things, which are a part of one reality, are happening, but I'm asking you to step away from it for a moment and just chill out and just hang out in this place. So by taking one step away from it, and then in this transition that you're doing, then take a deep breath and relax for a few moments, even if there is pain. If your mind is running crazy, it doesn't matter what's going on. I want you to kind of surrender to what is going on without feeding it, without really entertaining what is going on. You're just simply relaxing into this moment. And allow meditation to come to you. Don't force it, don't try to meditate. That is of no value. Just let the meditation come to you. Just hang out in this moment. Be with this moment. Allow yourself to have a chance to relax into this moment without any stories, without any agendas. Not even relaxing in the moment is an agenda or even meditation. You're just simply chilling, chill out. Slowly come back. So basically, to make it very clear and simple for you to understand, uh, is I begin with this part. There's two realities that are happening in our lives. And the first reality, I would call it a relative reality. Relative reality is that which is changing all the time. And relative reality is what majority of people on the planet, 99.99%, identify with it. So let me explain to you what relative reality is. Relative reality is your life. It's your body, it's your mind, it's your emotions, it's your story of life, your past, it's your family, it's your schooling, it's your country, and it's the events in the world and events that happen to you. You fall in love, you fall out of love, you're healthy, you have health issues, you are working to get successful or become an artist or whatever, or you're destroying yourself with alcoholism or whatever drugs. Um, the story of your life, the theater of your life, which is happening, is and the world, events in the world. There's right now COVID, Delta, blah blah blah, shut down. Um, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, in the beginning of year 2000, it was the birth of the internet and the computers. Slowly, cell phones came out. Um, if you went back 30 years, 40 years, in mid 70s, there was the Vietnam War, stuff like that, oil crisis. You go back, there was like Korean War, then it was Second World War. Relative reality, events that are happening in the world and events are happening in your life. These are all relative reality. It's not, and when I say relative, relatively it's real. Okay? So right now, everything is happening for you. It's a relatively real because it's changing. So it changes all the time. Your thoughts changing all the time. Your feelings changes all the time, and your body is changing all the time. Your financial situation changes all the time. Your health is changing all the time. Your relationships with your family changes. Your relationship with your loved ones, your partners changes. With your boss, with your employees, your business changes. Where you live, on the street you live, they make buildings, they bring down some buildings, it changes. Wherever city you're living in, it changes. There's construction in it. It's governing parties come and go. their policies changes, the country you live in, there's constant change in it. Sometimes the country you live in dissolves. So, like, when the birth of Soviet Union happened, it swallowed a lot of countries around it, and it all became Soviet Union. And then when Soviet Union ended, a lot of countries were born. So things didn't exist, they came to existence, and some things existed, disappeared. So there's constant changes happening all the time. Those are all relative realities. Relatively real, but not absolutely real. They're not absolutely real because they change. So unless you are exposed and unless you realize, it's a recognition of that which does not change, okay? And I'm going to put it in another language. There's a point in your life, for those of us who are lucky, this is not for everybody, trust me. A very small percentage of humanity or spiritual beings at one point in their lives, somehow, whether it's through a teacher, it's a guru, or a book, or something happens, it's an accident, whatever, it's an inner insight that appears at one point, very, very tiny, 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 tiny. I'm talking about a fracture of the society. The person realizes at one point that there is one thing, something does not change. And they notice that one thing doesn't change and everything else changes. So when you begin to recognize that, when you realize what is it that doesn't change, then you distinguish the difference between everything that changes and that one thing doesn't change. You can see the difference. But you won't be able to know the difference until you realize what is it not changing. You would not know the difference. And no one's expecting you because you have nothing to compare anything to. From the moment you were born to the moment you die, you are in this matrix. You are in this world that it looks real, it feels real, it touches real, but it's not real at all. It's changing all the time. So if something's changing all the time, it cannot be real because it doesn't have any substance to it. So you may come and tell me like, how about this building here? This building has been here for 300 years, 500 years. But one day this building is going to fall apart and it's going to be replaced. You may come and tell me, well, if there's the Mount Everest and it's been here ever since the ever since. But even Mount Everest is changing all the time. There are rocks in it that fall down. So it's shaped, even if it may take 500 years, but still changing from one thing to another thing. It's not exactly, Mount Everest is not exactly what it was 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago. Things change in it. Rocks fell off, so there is change. Obviously, you can use yourself better than anything else. Look at yourself. You have been changing. You're not the same as you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You don't think the same way. You don't have the same desires, same goals, same fears, same financial status, same physical body, same relationship. It's either got better or maybe got worse, but there's changes in it. So when you start to pay attention, which is this is really the difference. This is the main shift. This is where transformation happens. This is not about positive thinking. This is not about visualization. This is not about pseudo spirituality. This is very, very simple, yet very, very deep, because it's the last step in your spiritual awakening. It's the final place. Now, whether karmically for thousands of years or thousands of lifetimes you have come and gone and you work through this, whether that such a thing is there or not, it doesn't really matter. What matters is you're here now and you're hearing these words, and there's an availability to hearing these words because you keep coming back. And even though I keep repeating the same thing over and over again, maybe with different ways and angles or words, but somehow you don't leave, and you show up, and I show up, which is a miracle again. So what the message is that there's two realities. The second reality, so we talked the first reality, relative reality. Okay? So from now on, when we're going to communicate with each other and you want to tell me a story, we can talk about the relative reality. And then I'm going to tell you about the absolute reality. The absolute reality is that which doesn't change. What is it that doesn't change? Something doesn't change here. And that is the witness. That is the real you. That is, the other word for it is the presence. That is the observer. That is the I am. Or you can say your soul. You can say your higher self. You can say consciousness. You can use different words for it. So, but these words are referring to, they're indicators. They're sending you in this direction. So there is a greater reality that it's always here. So when you take one step back, you pull back from the story. The story is the relative reality, which is your story with your things, whatever is happening in your life. And we all have that individually, have this story. And that's completely designed by the divine creator, that we all have our own individual stories, and it's very important. It could be very dramatic, and it's very important. And you come across people who are, you can call them drama queens, very identified with everything. And then, you have people who are more mellow and they're kind of more kicked back and they don't jump into things too quickly, too fast. They're kind of observing it. And then, you're working on yourself. You're constantly on this journey of self realization. So you learn through this journey to be an observer, the, the witness. So what happens when you pull back and you're witnessing, you're observing, you're in this place? So you're observing and you come to these teachings. So Zarathustra tells you, or someone else tells you, whether you go to Muji, you go to Eckhart Tolle, you go to Ramana Maharshi, Papaji, Nisargadatta, Ramesh Balsekar, the older teachers or the newer teachers, and they're teaching you observation. They're teaching you to look at your mind, observe your thoughts come and go. And they teach you to observe your emotions. They come and they go. And they also teach you how to watch, how to observe your body. So you learn observation, witnessing. And when you go deeper into your training, then what happens is that you are looking at your past, you're looking at your life story, you're observing it. The whole thing comes and goes in front of you. And then you're also sitting there as you get more skilled, you're observing the world. Life is happening all the time, continuously, things happening. It's alive. It's a phenomena that's alive. But this phenomena is constantly changing from one thing to another. Always, constantly. There's movements in it all the time. So, for example, right now, the major theme of the world and your life, the major theme is COVID-19, the virus, the story that comes with it. Okay? But that's another story too. That's not real. Neither as the world that you're observing. That's another changing event that's coming and going. It has no reality to it. It's a relatively real. In absolute reality, it's not real. It's another changing story. This thing is going to end in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years from now, you don't even think about it or talk about it because it's turned to something else. And it doesn't matter what that is. Everything is going to change from one thing to another. But who is observing it? Who's noticing this change? Who has been recording and noticing that your body, when you were 5 years old or 10 years old or 15 years old, observed the change to come to what it is today? Who observed this? You. Who's aware of your memories? You. Your memories, some are there, some are not there. Some things you used to remember and now you don't remember them anymore. But someone is aware that there was a memory one day. Who's observing the thoughts? You come and say, oh my God, I have a very busy mind. You have a busy mind in relation to what? How did you notice you have a busy mind? Who noticed it? Somebody must have noticed there's busy mind somewhere who's not involved with this busy mind, is just simply aware that there's a busy mind. I'm so emotional. I feel like, I can't control myself. I get really angry. I get really anxious. I get really worried about my kids, the future. Who is observing these emotions? Emotions come and go. Who's observing it? Who's noticing it? And that's you. But who is this you? That's the part of you, the observer, the one that doesn't come and go. The real you doesn't come and it doesn't go. It's not the one who was born and it's not the one who's going to die. We have this identification from childhood to the body. We think our existence is based on this body. When this body dies, I die. So I'm very identified to it. So I'm very protective of it too. And I get super scared when I'm getting close to death, whether it's danger or I'm in a dangerous place or I got disease or I'm really old and I'm very close to the edge of dying. And I'm really frightened because I think my existence is going to finish there. Because when this body dies means it's over for me. So I'm very identified with it. This very strong identification is happening. But when you start to pay attention, who who is going to die? Because what happens is you begin to identify, you begin to shift, you're stepping back to a greater reality, to the absolute reality that doesn't change, is not born, it's not gonna die, it's always here. It's like, And when we meditate, when we're together, when we come in this union and we calm down and we get quiet, we step back, we put our story away, you come to the academy, we're in this bubble, and maybe for 2 hours you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to leave everything. I'm not going to worry about my kids, my dogs, cats, horse, family, school, money for next couple hours. I'm going to go to the academy because I always become really calm. I always get very centered. It's very therapeutic. I like this guy, and I'm just going to go there. So you come here, we get together, and you leave your story behind. You become available here in this moment. And in that availability, what happens is you identify with your greater reality. And your greater reality is that which is always here. Your greater reality is an expansion, it's infinite. There's infinity. And there's no identification because the greater reality is not really a person with a story. So what happens is you're pulling back from the person. This is the front with the story. You're stepping away from this. And then in that stepping away that you're pulling back, this is the story, the person with its story. You're pulling back, and then it's silent. It's quiet. There's no thoughts. There's no emotions in it. It's just pure presence. So as you pull back and you connect to the greater reality of who you are, all of a sudden you're touching this magical, magnetic, electric presence, which is your own self. And you just didn't know about it because nobody ever told you from your childhood that this thing exists. But you've always been a part of it, but no one's pointing out to you that in order to connect to it, you just have to be quiet. Long time ago, a friend of mine and I, we started a club. It was on Wednesday night or something, and it was called Shut Up and Drink. So shut up and drink, or shut up, have a shot, and just kick back. And as you pull back, all of a sudden, everything's quiet. All of a sudden, it's absolutely silent. And what happens is you are falling into your own self. The presence is just infinite, infinite presence, which has always been here. This infinite presence, it's always here. And it's observed all these stories in the world from the beginning to now. All these things have come and gone. All these empires have been the Persian Empire, the Roman Empire. All these empires that appeared and disappeared. Right now it's the American Empire. America is the empire, is the big boy, big dude, the dominant one. This one is going to dissolve too. It's going to disappear. Because it's not real. Of course it's real in this lifetime that we have to deal with it. But once you realize what is real, then you can see this one is not real either. The reason you don't know what's real, what's not, is because you haven't connected or bring your attention to the greater reality of yourself. No one ever told you that. No one ever instructed it to you. You have touched it through meditation. You have touched it. You went and did a course with Tony Robbins for 5 days, 6 days. You are forced to touch it, whether you like it or not. You've done courses with Eckhart Tolle. You've gone to classes. You've did, I don't know, different kind of whatever, you know. You went, did shamanic work. You've done all kinds of different things with different people. And you have touched that space. But no one has ever really clarified for you that that space you're touching is not because you are in a workshop. It's not because of Zarathustra. It's not because of Tony Robbins. It's not because of Eckhart Tolle. It's because this thing is always here. You have touched your own self. And that's not because of someone else. The presence is always here. It's not because you went to Sedona, Arizona. It's not because you went to Egypt and you're in front of the pyramids, or you went to Mount Shasta, or you went to this special place in Croatia, which is they got the pyramids, or wherever. It's because, or I went to this amazing nature. I'm in northern or in the middle of Norway. It's in summertime. I'm with the fjords, and it's just like, wow. I feel the divine self. It's not the place that made you feel the divine place, divine self. The place is mirroring. It's a mirror to what is here, because the divine self, divine space, it's always present and it's always here, and it's unconditional. It's not based on conditions. You just happen to touch it and experience it, and because you don't know, you're projecting it on the outside of yourself, because no one ever taught you anything else. And now you are learning, because you're ready for it, you're paying attention, and someone's telling you, hey, it's not there, just all you have to do is be quiet, shut up and drink. Just be quiet and just pull back from the story, and immediately, boom, every single time, anywhere you are, I don't care where you are, you're sitting on your toilet, you are in the middle of, I don't know, bombardments in Afghanistan, you're in the middle of downtown New York or downtown Toronto, and it's crazy, and or you're in the underground station in Stockholm, and it's Friday and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the central station is crazy. It doesn't matter where you are. Any moment you stop and you pull back, you completely 100% connect with the vastness of the being, and you connect to the absolute reality, because it's always here, it's always present, and it never changes. There is no change. Go after that, recognize that, look for that. Don't waste your time with anything else. Be ruthless, be selfish, and be in this place that I don't give a shit about anything else. I just want to become free. And I just want to connect with the truth of who I am, the greater reality of yourself. So you're just quiet and you're not involved with what is happening in the world. You don't get involved with it. If you get involved with it, you get identified with it, and it becomes very real, and it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. But when you pull back from it and you just drop into this place, all of a sudden you realize all is well. There's nothing going on. In the core of yourself and the being, there's nothing happening. It's silent, it's quiet, it's safe, it's love, and nothing is going on. And you recognize that. And as you recognize that, the rest of it is become a movie. You're watching a film, and your body is in that film too. Your physical body is in that movie, but you are no longer in it. You're just watching it like you're watching a movie on Netflix. Yeah, you get involved with the movie, but when the movie's over, a couple hours after or the next day, you don't think about it anymore. It's gone. And this life, this world, is the same thing. It's not real because it's changing all the time. But bring your attention to what is real, You pull back and you connect with the greater reality, which you all have done it. You all have done it. You wouldn't be sitting here listening to me. You would be bored to death hearing this stuff. You all connect to the greater reality of yourself. You're doing it every day because you're meditating, you're practicing, and you have moments that you feel really blissed out. You feel very calm. There's no more anxiety. There's no more worry. You're just sitting there and you're just loving it. It's like, wow, I'm so blissed out. We've done it. We've been in retreats together, workshops together, and I've seen you, but you've been like, wow. But that wow, you have it inside yourself. It's always here. You just have to recognize it because you've been touching it. You go back and forth. You go to it, and then you come out of it. When you come out of it, you get involved with a relative reality world that it becomes very real. Of course, the relative reality is real. If they break into your home right now and they start beating you up, it's the Secret Service police or someone, it's very real. They're beating you up. Of course, relatively, it's real. Of course, you're gonna feel it. You can't just say, hey, oh, this is not real. Okay, if I poke a knife in your hand, you go like, what are you doing, dude? It hurts. Stop. Of course it's real. It's relatively real. But it's not the absolute reality. Absolute reality does not change. It's always here. And your being, the observer, if you have the power of observing and witnessing, that means what? That means you're doing it from the truth of who you are, which is the greater reality. It's the absolute reality. So work on that. Practice on that. Use these comments, these words, these teachings, these sharings that I'm doing with you, and say, okay, you know what? I like this dude, Zarathustra. He makes me calm and quiet. I, kind of trust him, or I trust him. And for the next couple of weeks or whatever, I'm gonna do what he's suggesting to do. You don't have to spend any money on it. You don't have to do anything. I'm not asking you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and put your finger there and breathe from here and here, or do Kriya Yoga, or do jumping up and down, or go run around, or starve yourself to death for 40 days. Or I'm not asking you to do anything like that. All I'm just saying is pull back from your story, whatever is going on in your mind, whatever is going on in your life, pull back and hang out in this place and begin to recognize that the space is always here. It's always available to you, and it's not conditional. The space, your greater reality, is not going to say, you know what? You haven't been a good girl. You've been eating too much cake and sugar and chocolate. You put a couple of kilos on, and I'm not going to show myself to you now. You cannot touch me. And God says, you know what? You've been a bad girl, and I'm not going to come to you. Or you haven't been very nice to your family. You're working a lot. You're not paying attention to your kids. You don't have access to me. It's not a religion. The presence doesn't give a shit if you ate a lot of chocolate, or you had sex, or you're thinking about thoughts of having sex with somebody you shouldn't, or you're thinking about money, or you're thinking about power, or you want to look better, or you don't, or whatever, or you didn't go to work because you're too lazy, or whatever. It doesn't give a shit. It's only in your head. You're thinking you're not worthy. The presence is always here, always. It's always here. All you have to do is pull back a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're in this place of pure grace. Silent, and there's bliss, but not bliss in a form of an emotion. It's different. It's not an emotional bliss. It's the presence. It's her majesty. It's the supreme being that runs through each and every one of us equally. And you're touching that. You have all recognized a greater reality. You all have noticed that there is something. There is God in your life. There is love in your life. You have all noticed that there is something bigger than anything else. It's bigger than your body, your mind. You have touched that in your life. You wouldn't be sitting here together if you had not. Now I'm asking you, go one step deeper. Take it one step more. So far, you've done a great job. You're in a very good place. But don't settle for just sitting together and having a 2-hour thing, or watching a couple of videos from me or somebody else. Don't settle for that. It's great, but now it's time to go even deeper inside, deeper, connecting deeper to the greater part of yourself, which is the vastness. And don't try to understand it, because it's a waste of time. Don't try to analytically understand, well, what is this greater, blah, 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 and this greater thing, blah, 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 blah. That's all bullshit. That's the mind. It wants to like, blah, 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 like going like this. No, forget about that. Just hang out. Hang out in this place. Recognize it. And then see how the quality of your life changes. Regardless of what's going on outside. Outside is going to be chaotic. And it's going to be chaotic for the next, God knows, 5-6 years. This is not going to calm down. This has just started it. So don't try to find any kind of peace of mind in the story of the world. Forget about that. And this is another story. There was a story 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The story is going to come and go. Don't involve yourself with the stories. Bring your attention to this part. Pull back. Connect to the greater part of yourself, to the magic, to the miracle, to the healing force, to the magical being of the greatness of the self. Connect to that and stay there as long as you can, because that's your salvation. In the midst of the chaos, you're the Buddha. The Buddha is sitting like this. It's not moving. There's no movements. Troops are attacking, people coming. Buddha is sitting there. Storms coming. Buddha is sitting there. Hurricane is coming. Buddha is sitting there. It's not moving. It's still. And then you would see the power in stillness. Because nothing can touch you. Nothing dares coming to touch you in the world. Nothing. Everything bows. The most powerful force in the world will come and bow in front of you. They would put their hands and their head at your feet. Because you're still and you're silent. And you're the observer, you're the witness. Because you are the stillness and everything else changes in front of stillness. They can't touch stillness. Stillness doesn't change. And these things that are coming and going, they're not real. They have no substance because they're changing all the time. And that's all you have to do. And everything else comes to you without even touching, lifting a finger. Everything, existence presents things to you. It brings it to you. Okay? Comprende? Anyone has any questions or comments? I have my both Shadis here today. How you doing, Shadi Sarafian? Nice seeing you. Yeah, I'm going to try to unmute you.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, nice.
I missed your last week.
Yeah, well.
But I listened to it afterwards.
Yeah, well, we're connected, so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, welcome back. Nice seeing you.
Thank you. I actually do have a comment or a question.
Okay.
Since you unmuted me. The relative versus the absolute. Sometimes I find lately when I'm trying to have being amongst people in general, and then I'm go back in the space of just silence, I find that it's difficult to have a communication because sometimes they're just talking nonstop about the story or whatever it is, and I'm practicing or I'm just going back, and then I get a response like I'm not listening or I'm not communicating. So I just want to see what you have, like how can I overcome that in those moments where I'm just going back, but then there's somebody in front of me that's conversing and they're going all over the place.
Right. That's a good one because, yeah, it's just basically as you, I mean, a couple of things happen. One is you begin to develop compassion and you recognize there's definitely a separateness is going to take place. You're going to get separated from the rest of the herd because the herd is going in this direction and you're going in that direction. So that's naturally going to happen because you're not in the story anymore. You're outside of the metrics. You're watching it from the outside. Yet you have compassion, and to a certain point you exercise patience of listening to the horseshit because they're telling you horseshit. Basically, it's a story, you know? And you start getting bored with it. To a certain point you smile and you pretend like you're listening, and the rest of the time you just pull back and you retreat. And slowly you learn how to operate. But you also learn to divide your time because you're around a lot of people generally who are involved in the story. So slowly you're going to find a few people who are also on the same uh, level as you are or close to you, because you also need your spiritual food, and you also need to hang out with people who are in the same level, um, because it's effortless. You don't have to put a lot of effort with them anymore. So you get a hang of it, of how to navigate. But
Okay.
don't feel guilty if you're pulling out. Don't feel guilty if you are impatient and you don't want to talk to them. And don't feel guilty if you're sometimes rude and you blow them off. All of it is okay. You're allowed to do that, because you also need to protect this inner being that is starting to blossom. And a part of it, that's what I said, you need to be selfish and kind of ruthless. Selfish in a way that you are recognizing this. So you're going to have to say no. You're going to have to say no to people you love and they're really like attached to you, that, hey, back off. I need to be in my own space. And ruthless in a way that, hey, this is the real thing. This is where the juice is. And I'm not going to let you guys come and destroy it. So it's like, I mean, there's been masters and teachers fully realized, and they absolutely don't spend time with anybody. Hold on a second, there's some noise coming. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, good. There's fully realized enlightened masters that absolutely despise being around people, and they go hide in the forest, or they go hide in monasteries, or they go hide in their own little village or town. They don't want to teach, they don't want to deal with people, and completely isolated. You go to full realization, doesn't mean that you're all going to be lovey-dovey and want to teach and share that with people. No, you can easily hiding from them because they're annoying you. And it can change. You can be on a light line and be a spiritual teacher, and then after God knows how many years, you may say, "Okay, I don't want to teach. I don't want to transmit anymore. I'm done with it." Because you also realize to whom and for what. The rest, you recognize everything else is yourself, and you realize everything is enlightened. And then all of a sudden, it's like you don't have any desire to awaken anyone because there is no one there. It's all yourself. So you lose that desire for it. It can happen. I've seen it with different people. Was that enough? Do you have anything else you want to ask me?
No, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you've done something to your hair. You look different.
No, I just straightened
Oh,
it.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Roshanak. Nice seeing you. I get a bonus of mother and daughter together same day. It's a bonus day.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice seeing you too.
Also, all the familiar people I always see. It's really nice to come here.
Yeah,
Always.
all the usual suspects are here.
Anyway, it was really nice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Let's see what's going on in Instagram. Hi, Marie Angelteg from Sweden. Hi, Adar Shadi. She's working. Hi.
Hi, Zarathustra. Thank you
Hi.
so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Sorry, I couldn't get back to you yesterday. It was very, very hectic and a full-on day. But
I could understand.
yeah, I'll contact you.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking about this today because now it's so incredibly clear to me. Now I understood it with my heart, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's it's like different times, different kind of words or topics pointing out in that direction, and then it clicks.
Yes, it did.
So it's the same message, but you just have to change the way you say it. So, and then every once in a while somebody identifies, they get it. It just goes in there.
Of course.
Yeah.
I remember the first workshop I was visiting you in Stockholm. And then we were talking about the reality and so on, and absolute. And you said that Stockholm is not real, and I was just sitting there, what they're talking about. We are sitting in the middle of Stockholm,
Right. Well, it's interesting because let me just say something else. Is like where's anything? Like, if you this is just for fun, I'm sharing it with you. You can try that and see how you feel, how you think about it, and see if, let's see if you come up with anything. Just practice it just for a few days, just see what's going on. Right now I'm sitting here in my studio, and the only thing, how much, when you're sitting somewhere or you're wherever you are, how much can you see at one given moment? You can see as long as your eyes see in the front and whatever is in your surrounding, correct? This is your vision, field of vision. And this is the only as much as you can see and absorb in a given moment of the world. Now the world is big, right? It's got all these countries and continents and all these different races in it. But this is all you can handle in a given moment. And so you're sitting here right now, you're looking at me, and then, whatever you can see from the side of your eyes and in front of you. That's the only thing that exists right now. And nothing else exists. Everything else that you think, even let's say right now where you're sitting, let's say your husband, your friend, your kids, they're in the other room, or you have family, your family lives in the same city as you live. But if you're doing what I'm suggesting, where are they? You're in your memory, you have a family, you have friends, you have kids, but they're not in front of you right now. So do they really exist? because this is all you can take right now, and this is all exists in front of you. The rest of it is a memory. It's information stored in your memory that I have family, or my wife is in the other room, my kids are downstairs. Hypothetically, I'm not married and I don't have kids, but they're not in front of me. You don't see them. And it's interesting, if you get into this and you go a little bit deeper, you realize that the world, other countries, other cities, other nations, they're non-existing until the observer is there to observe them. Otherwise, where are they? It's a story that you have accepted that, for example, I've never been in Australia or I've never been in Africa. Do they exist? I don't know. I don't see it. As far as I'm concerned, they're non-existing. As far as I'm concerned, anything outside of my vision right now does not exist. And then I have to leave this place and walk on the street. All of a sudden, the street and the homes and the cars, they appear. But if I'm not there, are they really there? Do they exist? And you don't know. I went a little bit into channel 2. It's a little bit deep, but it's a little bit deeper than some people may not be ready to take this. It may be too much for them. And you may come and say, what do you mean my family don't exist? Or what do you mean the town, the city I live in doesn't exist? What do you mean by that? But it's not there till an observer appears there. It requires an observer to be there to observe it. If there is no observer, then how is it going to be noted? And there's like a, riddle. It says, and I'm sure some of you probably have heard that, if a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there to observe it, does the tree make any noise while it's falling down? But there's nobody there to see it. No one is there to see this tree falls down. And does it make any noise? Well, nobody was there to see it falling down and making noise, so we don't know. The rest becomes hypothetical. So in every given moment, there's only one thing I can see, I can observe. This is as far as I can get. It's very limited. And for those of you who don't travel, most of the time you are staying where you live. You don't, let's say, you live in suburbia of Oslo or Stockholm, and you don't really travel very much. Does the rest of the world exist? It's information, okay, next to Sweden, there's Norway, and then there's Finland, and there's Denmark, but you don't know because you don't go anywhere. So do they really exist? Or this is only information stored in your mind? we really don't know anything when it comes to our personal level of knowing. I'm not talking about knowledge. We can sit down and read a lot of books, watch a lot of videos, and collect information about almost anything. But is it your direct experience? That's a different story. Do you really know it yourself, or you just read about it and you accepted it because it comes from a very high level of authority? But do you really know it? Is this your own reality, or you heard about it? So when I examined it and I went deep inside, I realized that I don't really know anything. Very little, itty bitty. And I'm only been here for a few years, and before I know it, I'm gone. So I can't really beat on my chest to say I'm big and bad and I know. Not as a person. But once you step back and you connect to your greater reality and you realize, wow, there is this presence, your mind is absolutely silent. And you don't really need to have knowledge because you have become the greater reality and everything is in it. So you don't have to really know. You simply are that which is always here. And that which is always here is complete. So it reveals itself to you. You don't really have to try. You just recognize you are that. And then all of a sudden, the magic reveals itself. It takes care of you, it brings things to you, it paves the road for you, and it fulfills whatever destiny you have and takes you through the road in the most amazing way. And then you realize, wow, this is really simple. But before that, it seems like it's impossible. It's it looks like it's a struggle. know that this place that you come to, this is the greater part of yourself. This is the greater reality that you're connecting to. Deep stillness, the deep silence, the presence. You dive into it. And this is always here. It's always available. Anybody would like to share anything with me before we come to the end of our academy? Any questions or any comments? Great. So we'll have our next academy next Wednesday. Um, my website is zarathustra.tv. My social media address is Zarathustra5D. And if you would like to connect with me, you can write to me at info@zarathustra.tv. You can send me an email and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. I don't have any upcoming programs. For now, the Academy is the only thing I'm doing. And feel free to reach out, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Sending you my love. And don't forget about just staying present and being still and connecting to the greater reality, the greater part of yourself. Namaste. For those of you who are on YouTube and Instagram, thank you for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you next week.